Never in the history of the world have the merchants of obscenity had available to them the modern facilities for disseminating this filth. Disseminating this filth. The onslaught of the communist masters of deceit.
Pinko, Commie, Slutz. Pinko, Commie, Slutz. Pinko, Commie, Slutz. Pinko, Commie, Slutz.
Okay, recording. Who's ready for some coordinated harassment?
Harassment. Everyone get in force.
Get in line.
Steven, did they do that at your Boy Scout camp? The announcement song?
Oh, yes. Lots of announcement songs.
Okay.
The announcement song?
It was just announcements.
Well,
But
that's
this
good.
time
That's
we're
catchy.
doing it as harassment for the Liz lads.
That's what I was thinking. I was wondering if
the Liz
a
lads.
fellow
The Liz lads.
Boy Scout.
Okay.
and and Eagle Scout had similar experiences.
Shut up.
Shout out to Eagle Scouts.
Once an
What
Eagle
y'all doing
Scout-
Boy Scouts for so long for?
Once an Eagle Scout, always an Eagle Scout.
Yeah, it's what
which
I've
means
heard.
that Steven Spielberg and Steven here is
I
both
believe
Eagle
every president. Most presidents.
Several presidents. I
Several
don't think
presidents.
everyone. Well, I mean,
All right. Well, welcome to Pinko Commie Slutz. This is our second episode, our real humdinger of an episode. We're downloading the results from Super Tuesday and all the subsequent goings on. Super Tuesday happened, but before it even could commence, little Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar dropped out and coalesced behind old Daddy Biden.
The Buttichar.
Sad to see him go, guys. Sad to see him go.
Yep.
But they did as expected, which is get behind Biden.
It's surprising. It's surprising to see how well coordinated they were at the very last minute.
Warren had a donor surge at the same time.
Do you guys think they all got the same phone call?
From President Obama.
Yeah, I think that Warren didn't necessarily get called in, but I think that she got a donor surge right before Super Tuesday.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's coordinated because I'm sort of
There was
into
coordination involved.
Well, obviously, but I think we're not making enough of the antagonism that exists between Elizabeth Warren and several members of the Obama administration. You know, she did pee in their faces and all. So Rahm Emanuel,
Well, yeah.
he wanted her to
the
stop
Emanuel
pissing in their face.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's a quote from Rahm Emanuel. So I just am hoping Liz Warren right now is...
Let's talk about Liz Warren.
There are two wolves fighting inside Liz Warren. One hates Biden. One's still mad at Bernie. Which one will she feed?
Depends on who bullies her more.
I guess. Oh, gosh, there's so much to talk about. Liz Warren dropped out today. It is March 5th, hot off the press. She dropped out today. I am open to Liz redeeming herself.
What would redeem her? Tell us. What would redeem her? What are the stipulations that would redeem that snake emoji?
I think she walks back her walkbacks. She goes back to her former positions of being willing to abolish private insurance and throws her support behind Bernie in a way that is meaningful and genuine and resonates with the people who just wanted to be progressive just because Liz said so and not for realsies. I am a firm believer that all politicians are certified psychos, and I believe Mr. Bernie Sanders is a psycho for good. He's obsessed with getting us health care, and I don't think Liz is as obsessed with those things, but the people who
She kind of is just a careerist. I think that's fairly clear. I mean, she generally, worked her way up the tenure track, Ivy League professorship thing. She sold some like fucking self-help books. I remember reading this article. I don't know if anyone else did, but she's got some like self-help books that like make Marianne Williamson honestly look scientific as fuck. Like,
wait, Liz Warren?
yeah, Liz Warren.
She wrote a self-help book?
Yeah, her and her daughter did. Like,
it
was like pre-2-income trap. It was like sort of like, just like a financial vision board, basically.
I'm not I'm somewhat familiar with what you're talking about because I do remember there's a book she and her
there's the
daughter
2-Income
wrote.
Trap, which was the like famous one of hers and her daughters, and that, from what I know, makes some good points. But no, prior to that, like it might not have been with her daughter. I don't know. I read this article like a few months ago. But yeah, it's by all accounts a fucking self-help book.
So you're predicting that she backs Bernie, and
I'm not so much predicting, but part of my analysis here on the show is my vibes, guys, the orbs. And I do have a little bit of a vibe that Liz Warren is really having a dark night of the soul right now. And she wants to decide what her legacy is. I just hope she sees it outside of the Clinton and et cetera staffers that have been advising her.
Yeah, I think her general like professional brain is going to just say your path forward is to do some good as a secretary of finance or whatever the fuck for the Biden administration. Like I just think that's the safer bet. That's the bet that makes the most sense for her.
I'm in agreement with this. I think the best case scenario is she and Bernie throw a giant powwow with the squad and Tulsi Gabbard and all the so-called progressives all get together in Michigan with Michael Moore, and they throw a giant rally on Saturday night.
Well, yeah, I mean, Bernie did cancel his Mississippi rally to go to Michigan. It seems like it's going to be something kind of a big deal. So who knows what's being planned. But look, guys, we're going to have to suck some dicks at some point during this if we're going to go all the way. And I'm just saying, a Liz Warren dick isn't the worst dick we could suck in terms of compromising.
She could have said... When she did her answer today about, who are you endorsing? And she's like, oh, I'm not going to endorse anyone right now. She didn't say, like, I'll have an announcement in the next week. Like, it's the answer that you give for you're waiting for the primary to end.
Yeah, I think that's the more prescient. She has proven herself to be an institutionalist. She has proven herself to be aligned with whatever institution the Democratic Party is kind of banking on, and nothing in the last 6 months has shown that she is going to drop everything and endorse Bernie. She ran a god-awful campaign. She misread the electorate. She tried to appeal to everybody but got barely any support in her home state or anywhere else. And I'm going on she endorses Biden at the convention, if not before that. Falls in line with the safer racehorse.
I guess this gives me an opportunity to mention I went to canvass for Bernard in Massachusetts, so I was being a real big bitch to Elizabeth Warren.
How was
in her own state? It was just where they said they needed people that was drivable. I've never canvassed before, and I've never done anything like this during a primary. It's always been during the general. I get bullied into phone banking and etc. But this was the first time. I went with a bunch of comics. We got up early on a weekend, and we went to talk to some people about Bernie Sanders. We were in Pittsfield and Springfield, Massachusetts. The neighborhoods some were kind of upscale suburban, some were not as much. We did get to go to some Spanish-speaking neighborhoods, and luckily I was paired with somebody who spoke Spanish. I did get to say "No mas Trump" a lot during that canvas, but it was interesting. Most people were warm to Bernie that we talked to. I had a couple. I did meet a couple Warren supporters, but they were also very warm on Bernie. They were not what's reflected on the Twitter. We should all remember Twitter's only some of us assholes and not necessarily reflective of all the assholes paying attention right now. It did kind of feel like no other campaigns had done anything in these areas.
Not even Liz?
It didn't seem like anyone had been around. There was no signage. Definitely nobody had come in person to canvass. That was really apparent to me. I thought they were going to be more annoyed. I mean, certainly some people were like, yeah, see ya. But the people we spoke to seemed to appreciate it. I was sort of taken aback. Also, we had the good info where their polling place was. Very practical information, which I actually think that should be more of the thrust of it. I sort of wished that the materials I had to hand out would have been just their polling place and the times and like contact this if you need a ride. Like that, I wish we were doing, it was a little bit more like that. Because that was more of the challenge, was just reminding people there was an election and convincing them that it was worth it for them to do it. Not so much actually convincing someone who was on the fence to, to come over to Bernie. That was such a minuscule part of it.
How did you feel watching the returns the other night?
For Super Tuesday or
Massachusetts?
For Massachusetts, I was bummed because it did look like for a while early in the night that Bernie was going to take it, and I was going to, of course, take credit for this. I was massively disappointed that it was Biden. It would have been fine if it was Warren to me. It's her state, all that stuff. I did feel like in the areas we were in, a lot of people were super into Bernie, super aware of the campaign. So I don't know. It was my first time canvassing. I think I'm going to do it again. I think I might go to Pennsylvania, maybe. Bother some more people at their residence. I encourage everyone. It's very easy to get involved if you are so inspired. You can make phone calls. You can text for Bernie, even if you can't drag your ass somewhere and tell people in person.
Yeah, I've been doing the local campaigns with DSA, which also all of those canvases double as Bernie canvases. Most people don't talk to you, but it's really not that difficult to do. And yeah, you should do it.
You should do it. Warren dropping out, guys. It's time to talk about feminism. I as the woman, I guess, in the room right now, in this moment, I had the fun experience this election of being accused of a lot of internalized misogyny because I wasn't supporting Warren as my number one. And it kind of sucked. It was hurtful because it sometimes came from people who do know me somewhat as a person. That was weird to have people question my whole character just because I wasn't supporting who they liked the most.
What did they say to you?
Well, I very directly got accused of internalized misogyny. I believe what was said was, "I'm sorry, your internalized misogyny is getting in the way of you supporting a great candidate." It's frustrating because I'm somebody who is frequently accused of being a misandrist and a feminazi, and you can't have it both ways. It can't be both. if I'm held up as the great hater of men, I cannot also be the eternal misogynist. Also, it's offensive as fuck. Like, I can't think for myself. I can't assess what I want in a candidate. They never asked me why. They never were curious. Hardly. Why? They just jumped right to.
And you've gotten in fights with Roosh V back when that meant something. So
I
just
certainly
want
did.
The listeners to know that.
I'm deep in the internet for many years. Roosh V, back in the day, he's still living in his mom's basement, I'm pretty sure. But he was
He's doing bread now.
He's a writer of how to pick. He was kind of in the pickup artist sort of subculture of the early aughts.
Early pickup artists, men's rights activists,
moved
and
into
all
that
that sort of collapsed into inceldom and the alt-right in this weird.
And he used to. He hated a blog I used to do with my old roommate, which was about feminism. And our readership was almost exclusively of this variety of men's rightsy kind of pickup artist people. Yeah, so I know all about fighting on the internet and hating men. Yeah, it's spectacularly frustrating because as a comedian, like, that is a thing people say about me, whether they like mean it sort of tongue in cheek or they legitimately think I'm too mean to men. That is associated with me. So frustrating to have women be like, I'm so sorry, you just want boys to like you. And I'm like.
And are they mostly men also? Or
it's a mix? It was a mix. It was definitely a mix. There were definitely other women. That was the toughest for me to deal with, is other women that I like personally, either painting all Bernie supporters as this really broad, like, oh, Liz Warren's got the same ideas as Bernie. If you don't support her, it's because you're a misogynist. Like, that was disappointing to see from people I knew. And then there were a few who were like outright antagonistic, but there was a lot of dudes, a lot of Liz lads out there, and that was so obnoxious to be mansplained to about how to be a good feminist. That was a really fun time, but it's over now. Liz is out. Remains to be seen. Personally, I am voting for more diplomacy. I'm in the Orb gang, so we've already got a new welcoming emoji planned. That should she come aboard, we've got something nice for her. So really appreciate my graciousness here.
And I mean,
you're
also
the most diplomatic amongst us.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
for sure.
well, also I was going to say prior to this, you mentioned the whole emojis abuse thing. I don't know if you want to.
Oh yeah, definitely. I want to get into that. I want to get into some of the tone I saw online, which was conflating the sending of emojis, teeny tiny little pictures, with full-on abuse. Belittles abuse, guys. It's really offensive to me personally, as someone who has both experienced actual abuse and harassment on the internet. That's what you call it when it's on the internet and it bothers you. It's harassment. And I don't actually elevate just the sending of an emoji to harassment. That's not a threat. It's the equivalent to somebody fucking up and saying something bad about Beyonce and getting a bunch of bees in their mentions. It's annoying. People do it
for a while.
Yes, true. But do we blame Beyonce for the beehive? Do we hold her responsible?
More so than that, doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter.
None of it
all.
matters.
It absolutely doesn't matter. There's no material harm brought to anybody via emoji.
So we're encouraging this form of harassment.
Look, you know what? I got to admit, I did not fire off nary a snake emoji and publicly. I did not do that. And I don't want to be held responsible for those who did, but those who did were just fucking sending an emoji. That is literally all it is.
Responsibility for all of it.
Marlowe was the snake emoji king.
It was his brainchild. Also, I thought it was really troubling the amount of women saying that the snake specifically was so misogynistic, and as if it wasn't like, oh, snake in the grass. Like, she's like being mean to Bernie.
Yeah,
They all
Like,
became Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
oh my God, yeah. Became Dan Brown, like
Deep
Da
allegorical
Vinci Code,
thing
symbology.
about Eve and the snake. and
they
blah,
that's
blah,
bad
blah.
shit. That's fucking bullshit.
They all became semiotics experts. They all have a diagram of symbols that means things to whatever they project on them.
Yeah, and at least with Warren, like, she is a woman. Like, with Pete, it was just like, well, rats mean Jews. And it's like, well, Pete's not Jewish. Yeah, but, like, the rat means Jew.
And come on, give us a break. Pete
Objectively.
looks like a rat objectively, or at least a
Well,
gerbil,
like,
or
he-
like something in that area. Some people resemble animals.
To put it in terms that these idiots can understand, he looks like Peter Pettigrew. He like
Oh,
a
shit.
diet
Oh, shit.
Peter
Oh,
Pettigrew.
shit.
Oh,
He's-
shit.
He's Potter-splaining to the
I
Hermione
mean, he
Grangers.
looks like a man who was at one point a rat or could transform into a rat if he wanted to or
Yeah.
something. You know, if he was cursed by like some fairy tale witch, he would become the rat.
Obviously. Stop overthinking it, guys. They're doing it on purpose because they want to be victims of the mean Bernie Bro army. And at a certain point, shut the fuck up. I'm sorry. I don't give a shit anymore. I have actually been threatened on the internet. I've actually been abused. I've actually been harassed. None of the other candidates are held responsible for the actions of their surrogates. And they keep referring to just people on the internet as Bernie surrogates in a way that is disingenuous. Not every person who likes Bernie who's on the internet is a Bernie surrogate. Also, frankly, with Warren's campaign specifically, I saw a lot of really awful harassment launched at Native activists by Warren supporters for any that said anything critical about Warren's handling of the saying she was Native American and et cetera, so forth. She went expressly against the wishes of Native activists who specifically told her, do not do this. And when Native activists were critical online, I saw them get a lot of harassment, and no one ever addressed that. And I felt like it was dealt with the same way that this whole issue was. The assumption being, I guess, that not enough Native Americans are actual citizens, so who cares because they're not voting. Like, that's what it felt like. And frankly, I always think this is a personal thing. I look at how politicians approach issues with Native Americans, and I feel like it's really reflective of their character. It's one of my idiosyncrasies when it comes to American politics. I do this. So I just, until everyone's responsible for every dipshit that likes them, I don't really care.
She just ran a terrible campaign. Why? Like, you can admit that. I can admit some faults of Bernie. And Liz Warren, from the very beginning, ran an awful campaign. Anytime that she addressed anything about her own identity, she just fell on her face. Whether it was the DNA thing, whether it was attacking Bernie as being a sexist, whether it was deciding to take money from a super PAC and reversing her decision because women didn't have as much money as the men. She always used identity as a crutch, really. And it always fell flat. And her campaign suffered from it. Sorry, Liz Lads.
Well,
I'm not going to be diplomatic as Bunny is.
It's fine. I am compulsively diplomatic, but I also just want to point out, I agree, I don't think Liz Warren has great political instincts. I think she's made a lot of decisions I just honestly didn't understand. But devil's advocate, I guess, for her supporters, I do understand the things that they we're glomming onto. She's a good student. She's done the work.
She's the professor and the student. She's the model professor and the student at the same time.
She fills out all the check boxes that everyone who was in a gifted children's program was told you need to check off.
Exactly.
I mean, so does Buttigieg, frankly. He's, if anything, slightly more blatant about it, whereas Liz Warren is more advanced in her career, so you think of her as the cool professor that you had in undergrad. Yeah, no, she checks off a bunch of check boxes, and people think that matters. It doesn't matter. The reason it doesn't matter is because politics isn't about competence. There isn't an agreed upon way to run the country. That's why we have elections. So you can't just be good or qualified at it. You have to actually have people who agree with what you want to do. It is a battle of ideas, and her ideas weren't that inspiring at the end of the day.
Well, I think it was the idea of ideas that was the most inspiring. Yeah, like I don't mean that even as full of a shithead as I do kind of mean it. I mean that I found a lot of people were really hung up on, she's got the plans, look at all these plans. And then when I questioned them, because I had read some of her plans, they obviously had not. And it was like, well, but she's got a 10-page paper here, so, you know.
Her two slogans were, I've got a plan for that, and big structural change. Those aren't fucking slogans that you just have people chant in an auditorium somewhere. They just aren't.
And also, I mean, she wasn't offering big structural change. You know, that was the other. I mean, did you mention the 2-cent wealth tax? I mean, it just like that was her other thing was, you know, on the one hand, she's saying big structural change, and on the other hand, she's like pointing out as a good thing that her wealth tax is only 2 cents, because we can certainly just ask the billionaires for, you know, 2% of whatever over whatever fucking line.
Well, that was the thing, is that she had this like rhetorical progressivism built into her campaign that everyone assumed as this kind of thing that we all agree upon, even if we don't. That was the like Elizabeth Warren that we all thought. And once you like questioned any of it, there was, why do you hate women?
Again, it's the...
and they all seem to be compromises to continue an institution that was fundamentally hurting us, which Bernie, to his credit, opposes far more than she does.
Well, I do think it's also a little bit of the idea that, oh, all you need is somebody super smart to come in and hack it. It's almost like a little bit of the techno bro aspect of,
right. It's the
of neoliberalism, where
is a right answer.
Yeah. Or that, just via applying, I see it a lot where people think you can apply like an engineer's mindset to like something else, and oh my gosh, you're eating Soylent, you know, like, and they act like it's this super smart thing. And is it? Like, I mean, that's
kind of embedded in the liberal notion that there's a rational and a correct way of running the state, and we just need to find enough people who are rational and smart people who know these things, and then we need to listen to them. You know, everything from, I mean, you know, the Bloomberg campaign running on the fact that I was a manager, which is also what Trump ran on. The Yang campaign did that. And Warren's campaign did that. They all did it in different ways. But the general consensus was like, no, we don't need to worry about who's right and who's wrong. We all agree on the thing of what we need to do. I'm just arguing that I'm more qualified than other people to do it.
Speaking of Andrew Yang, he tweeted that Liz Warren deserved to be doing better. She deserved more than this. And I just wanted to address that sentiment I saw in a lot of the corners of the internet was that Liz deserved it. She deserved better. Things almost, we let her down kind of tone. And I just want to remind everyone, politicians are psychos and they work for us. They're not, like, it's worse to project all this onto a political figure than it is onto a celebrity or an artist. At least you're consuming some aspect of art in a personal way and having some personal experience. This is all bullshit when you project yourself onto these political figures, because from the moment you met this person, they've been telling a story. And I, too, was compelled by Liz Warren the first time I saw her on The Daily Show in the early 2000s. And she was, doing her, I'm going to talk about, well, this is just wrong and blah, 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 be the smarty pants. Like, it was cool. I don't think that means anything, like it does. Like, I've heard other women specifically mention seeing that interview, and the first time I saw her, and I've long wanted her to run, and that's great. Like, I want us all to be inspired, I guess, but taking it too far, ladies. I don't understand getting so wrapped up where you're taking it personally that people didn't vote for her.
That deserves better thing.
It's really weird to me that none of the politicians deserve shit.
It reminds me of like a statistician, like watching a baseball game and taking down like who has RBIs, who has the most earned hits, who has the most singles and doubles, and then adding all that up together into the spreadsheet, and then saying, well, this is the team that should be winning. However, they aren't scoring as many runs. And a lot of people watched Elizabeth Warren, all these like pundit class, like upper middle class, like liberals who watched her debate performances, wrote down all of her good lines against Bloomberg, all of her attacks on Bernie and again,
Bloomberg. It's the mentality of people who were in gifted classes in elementary
and said
school.
This person is doing really well if you stack him up against the other people, and she deserves better.
But here's my thing is I am almost one of those people, right? So personally, I'm somebody who I was in the gifted class in public school.
So was I. I was speaking personally.
We were all in
no.
gifted classes.
Yeah, we're all
Yeah,
but I'm saying as a woman, right? So as a woman, I have a lot of things I could draw lines to. I, too, feel like I should be headlining comedy clubs. Why aren't I? Is it because I'm a woman? Yes. But as much as I can relate to aspects of feeling like, well, I do know what I'm talking about and I'm being dismissed, or I'm not being taken as seriously, or I'm not getting a fair shot, that is such a small part of what oppresses me. So what oppresses me more is that I've never gotten a job that's paid me really enough. All of the things that have made me more vocally a socialist are things that oppress me far more than the times I'm in a room where we're all pretending like there's an illusion of a meritocracy and I should be maybe winning, quote unquote, but I'm not.
Also, it's a fundamental mistrust of democracy where you're saying like, oh, well, it's these idiots' fault who don't recognize the
amazing woman right in front of them.
Objective merits that must be respected above whether they can go to a doctor or have food.
Well,
or just ability to message, ability to reach people, like put together a coherent philosophy that will get you to get other people to like you, because it is at the end of the day a popularity fucking contest.
Well, yeah, what people are, she's the most qualified candidate ever. And I'm like, you know what qualifies you to run for president? Being over 35 and an American citizen who's not a felon. That's it. Like, and you know what? I think you should be able to be a felon. At least.
If I may, this was a random tweet that addresses something you were saying earlier. Y'all are grasping. She was better than your candidate, better prepared, a better uniter, and this BS will never erase that be best. Bernie's base is like abusive boyfriends. You treat us like shit and then are shocked when we don't want to be with you. I broke up with Bernie in 16.
Bernie's not your boyfriend or your dad or any of those things. And how dare you, honestly? How dare you? I'm offended for Bernie's family, honestly. When I hear things like that, it's so fucking weird. Like, the privilege you have to view politics via this lens of projecting yourself into the center of this universe, I can't fully relate at all. Like, I don't understand why they're so sad. And for me, it's hard because I feel like it's a high level of the entertainment professional managerial class that's super into this, and that's my realm. I lost people. Someone didn't book me because I was for Bernie, and they were really for Liz, and they were. I guess I had said I really don't believe I had even made that many kind of mean jokes in Warren's direction whatsoever. And the fact that this person had told someone else that they didn't want to book me because of how I was being about the election when they are way more antagonistic than I was being. So it was just bizarre to me to like not get a spot on a show and then have these people act like, how dare you? I don't know. It was really annoying. And I just want to say for the record, I've done a lot of work on a Bernie bro or two about about some of the legitimate criticisms, because I don't let people talk kind of gross misogynistic bullshit, even about women I don't like in my presence. You know, that's the other thing. I'm like, do you think I'm hanging out with a bunch of Bernie bros and they're saying like, oh God, I was just going to make a horrible...
You are right now. You're surrounded by them.
I'm just, I am someone who, even if I dislike a woman for my own personal reasons and whatever, I do not tolerate men going down a shitty, like, I don't even like it when people talk shit about women's looks in a disparaging way, even if I don't like the person, if it's a dude. If it's a gay dude or another woman, well, then we're just being a little bitchy. And we all know. There's a lot of socialist feminists out there, and this has been a very frustrating time for us. We exist. Different types of feminism is something that doesn't get a lot of play.
What would you say the different types of feminism are? I think that's good to unpack.
So this primary, what sort of stuck out to me was different kinds of feminism that I didn't get to see it fully, I think, before this primary. How I've always been really averse to what I call kind of girl boss feminism, the Sheryl Sandberg lean in. I was really critical of that because I feel as though telling upper middle class, mostly white women, that they better lean into their careers without mentioning that requires outsourcing the domestic labor required to keep a family going to some other woman. It's disingenuous, and I don't want to hear it. It's not real feminism to me. Being a feminist to me is not putting women in the exploitive positions of power. For me, and this is not something that necessarily every feminist identifies with, but for me, feminism is about vulnerable people and women happen to be classically vulnerable in almost all societies. And there's no safe space for us, even within our own homes. So I am really concerned with the material conditions of women's lives, and my feminism wants to improve those. And, not to rag on Liz by any means in this area, there were some areas I felt she excelled. The Universal Child Care Initiative, that's a good example of addressing material condition of a lot of women's life, a lot of working women's life, where they're the primary caregivers. Women are still the primary caregivers. So in order for them to pursue work, pursue school, they have to figure out childcare. And if they don't have the money to pay for daycare, to pay for a nanny, or the just the luck of the draw to have, mommy, auntie, whoever come and help out, it's an oppression. So there were areas I felt like Liz was actually somewhat addressing those material conditions. I do feel Liz's concern is mostly for women of the professional class who have put in their time. They went to school, they got this degree, etc. And I am more concerned with working class women. I'm really into thinking about domestic workers. I was one, and I spent a lot of time in that world. I got to see a lot of things up close. Of course, I don't want to act like my experience as a young white woman being a nanny is at all analogous to a person of color being in a domestic position, a person who English is their second language, a person who's an immigrant. Those are different experiences, but I did get to be up close with those experiences. You get to see a lot of dimensions of precisely that lean in feminism of professional women, where they are hiring other women to do their childcare and their cleaning and their cooking so they can, honestly, ideally, hopefully are pursuing some kind of career in that. There are plenty of wealthy women who have all that help who are not pursuing a career. And just a little inside baseball, they are the nightmare moms because they, I think, existentially know they lack purpose, and being a nightmare and managing, quote unquote, managing the household in a bitchy fashion makes them feel worthwhile and like they're doing something. I don't think that simply representation, in quotes, is real feminism. Yeah, I work in entertainment. I know all about representation. It's good to have the media we're consuming reflect what we're living in this country. I'm not averse to representation as a goal. But when we talk about it in politics, what? Who cares if somebody who looks like you is president if nothing changes materially? It's rich girl shit. It just I'm sorry, guys. I was a scholarship kid at prep school. I know a lot of decent, lovely, rich girls, but you're myopic. If you've never punched a clock, you don't know what that life is like. As many talks you've attended about the plight of people unlike yourself. So I don't know. I felt, ironically, hearing all these Warren fans be very sad about their candidate dropping today, which legit cool dude, but acting like they had endured all of this struggle when I've actually, it's actually been pretty annoyingly tough for me because I don't like feeling that I can't be honest about what I think, especially in comedy, especially among other people that I was under the impression there was at least a mutual respect with. Also, a lot of people who I kind of know personally who I know weren't really involved in politics in the past, talking down to me. That was just egoically, it was very hard to handle.
Very Vampire Castle.
Yeah.
It's very Vampire Castle.
It's very Vampire Castle. All right. Is it too much? Did we do too much Warren stuff? Is it too much, I think? Or is it just enough?
It's the day. It's the day.
It is the day.
It's the day to do it.
And I will 100%.
It's a lot of repressed frustration.
Look. Yeah, and I'll 100% Yas Queen Warren if she joins our Big Tent here in any kind of decency. I know you guys think it's doubtful. I'm saying the vibes feel very, it could go.
Say, to those who are Warren stans, ha, you picked the loser. But if you want to stop picking a loser, then fine. I mean, I think the calculus is honestly just she's not going to do anything until the primary winds down, and then she'll probably be. I mean, she'll be shut out of the Biden administration regardless, she'll probably have a place in a Sanders administration regardless. So, the fuck's it matter? Like, at the end of the day, if she wants to be Secretary of Finance or whatever the fuck, like, Bernie will probably give it to her.
I don't know what deal they gave with Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar and probably offering to Liz Warren right now.
Yeah, well, Buttigieg desperately needs a cabinet position to stay relevant because...
No, he's an MSNBC contributor till the end of fucking time.
Yeah,
I think Yang just signed with CAA.
CAA?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Buttigieg wants to be a media guy. I think he wants to be a politics guy. The problem is no one likes voting for him, so he needs to be appointed to a cabinet position in order to remain a politician. Amy, I mean, she can continue to be senator, or maybe she gets a cabinet position, but Buttigieg desperately needs something because no one likes voting for him.
No, but nobody likes voting for him. Okay, we all know how enjoyable voting is. It's really about the experience. The day of. All right. I think we got to pivot to our, are we calling this the Tankie update?
The Tankie whisper.
I don't know exactly what this is.
Well, look, part of the aim of this podcast is to let people know about scarier commies and people, tankies, etc.
Right. I don't have a huge issue with them.
Yeah.
We know. That's why.
We know. But we just want to show people how silly they're being when they act like very reasonable things are so radical.
And I can't, this is like, I can't wait until, New York Times comes out with an article just like they did on the alt-right.
Oh, shit,
Just like they did with the alt-right. Or there's a fucking
Incel.
book. Yeah.
Incel got ruined. Okay, Boomer got ruined. All these fucking great things.
They haven't gotten tanky.
They haven't said the word tanky yet. Libs have started saying tanky. Libs have started saying tanky to mean generally like Bernie or bust people or something.
Which is in itself hilarious.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. I guess this is my thing.
So what's a tankie?
Okay, so it arises from, I think, 1958 or I don't know. It was after Stalin died. It was probably early 60s. It was under Khrushchev, but essentially you had a bunch of communist parties in different nations. They all sort of answered to the Communist International, which was an office of the Soviet Union. And officially had to toe certain party lines to remain within the Communist International. So at a certain point, there was an uprising in Hungary. Khrushchev crushed it with tanks. And within British leftist circles, there began a split within the Communist Party of Britain over people who supported that and people who did not support it. People who supported it became called tankies. Tankie then existed as a term on the left for many years, generally being applied sort of regardless of actual ideology. It had been applied to quote-unquote Stalinists, Marxist-Leninists who followed Khrushchev, Trotskyists, etc. It generally just implied you had a somewhat authoritarian bent and were somewhat dogmatic in your beliefs and very unwilling to negotiate with others. Since 2016, it has sort of become more boiled down on internet leftist circles to specifically refer to people who call themselves Marxist-Leninists that other people call Stalinists. And it specifically refers to people who, one, believe that Joseph Stalin was a positive force in the history of the Soviet Union. Two, they sign on to certain doctrinal positions of Marxism, Leninism that I'm not getting into now. And three, they generally have a support of what is known as actual existing socialism, or AES, which would refer to everything from the modern Chinese state, North Korea,
Venezuela.
Venezuela, Laos, I think, or Vietnam. I think Laos and Vietnam are extant communist states. And there's a gradient line, and it's classically was used as an insult. It has since 2016 been taken on by a lot of Marxist-Leninists as sort of a self-defined term. I don't know. That's just who they are.
That's a pretty
good.
I feel like we could have premium episodes of you just describing those nitty gritty.
Yeah, there's like a lot of weird shit.
Just like going through the nitty gritty of what you just said, we could just take apart for hours. Yeah. But I think the takeaway is that they mean authoritarian left. A lot of
specifically nowadays, it specifically is applied to pro-Stalin leftists.
Right, pro-Stalin left.
Which is to differentiate because there are also very authoritarian Trotskyists who back in the 90s would have been called tankies. The whole notion of focusing on AES as a measure actually arose a lot in different Trotskyist circles, notably the Marcyites, whereas modern quote-unquote tankies, as we know them, are hyper anti-Trotskyist, which, again, that's a whole another thing because
we can go over that in the premium. Yeah. But I think the takeaway is that they're generally referring to authoritarian leftists, generally pro-Soviet Union, specifically to pro-Stalin, but also they're generally anti-identity politics. And
no, that is not necessarily true. No, that's not a thing.
That was my impression.
No, no. See,
it was more like the idea that
you're getting into stupid poll there, which is. There are overlaps between tankies and stupid poll.
This is the bro section.
Yeah,
of the feminist.
This sucks so much. I hate this. No, okay, so.
But meanwhile, my whole purpose here is just to be like, yeah, there are people out here who are like, yeah, all the bad things you associate with communism, I like them, and we have a specific term for them.
When did you come apart? When did you come upon Tankie as a term?
Probably not until after 2016. It was something as I got more into the left book space and etc. Essentially discovering like fanboys.
Tankies are extremely willing to say. Like, they'll make general, like, very broad arguments about global white supremacy as being a driving force for example, why we think North Korea is bad. They're extremely willing to engage in what would vulgarly be called idpol most of the time. There are some who are not, but it's sort of, that's more of like a fucking 4-quadrant thing than anything else. There's like anti-idpol anarchists. There's probably the biggest anti-idpol people now would be the sort of social democrat, slightly socialist, greater Chapo.
The dirtbag left is
but like there's more or less extreme factions of that. But like, yeah, I mean, generally, stupid poll would be the catch-all term for that, and that's just from fucking Chapo subreddit splitting apart. I don't know. It's all dumb.
It is all dumb. I just want to remind everyone, all of this is dumb, and everything is an illusion.
Have some great conspiracies, and I think that's where we can tie that in.
What I love.
If the Tankies come up with a great conspiracy, whether it's about China or they have a take about North Korea or Venezuela, they're very pro Venezuela.
Well, I mean, I'm pro Venezuela.
Yeah,
we're all
they
pro
have some
Venezuela.
good points.
There's like in the early days, like of post 2016, the big thing was fucking the Syrian civil war, and
the Assad
there being
stands.
Extremely hardliners for Assad, which, you know, there's nuance to that, sure, but that was the big thing at the time when all these factions kind of crystallized. Got to give them a win now and again.
I just think that big deal. Big deal. There are some people out here who are like, Stalin did nothing wrong. They're not doing anything to you. Yeah. Also, when I make a joke about guillotines, guys, lighten up.
They go
very unlikely I'm going to actually guillotine
you. They go on
you.
YouTube with like Chinese, North Korean flags, and
it's
give
LARPing.
Lectures.
It's no different than getting into other kinds of fandoms materially. There's no like burgeoning danger from
I mean, honestly, for the most part, they're not awful in real life most of the time, and frankly at this point they're not that awful online anymore.
They've fallen in line with Bernie, right?
Well, I mean, again,
which is something I've come across. People who feel like they wouldn't participate in any kind of politics do feel compelled to participate for a Bernie Sanders.
No, Bernie Sanders is bringing a bunch of a lot of former abstentionist leftists, Boots Riley in particular, who I think actually is a Marxist-Leninist. We can talk about whether he's quote-unquote a tankie. Probably not, but I mean, they're boots on the ground in protest for the most part. You can get into arguments with them on Facebook, but honestly, that's mostly a distraction. They do good work a lot of the times. They'll run food banks. They'll run different projects here and there. They do good work. Yeah, occasionally online you'll get in an argument about like North Korea, I guess, but for the most part, they're fine. They're not that big of a deal. And also, most in real life socialists in America outside of the DSA are Trotskyists.
I think it's something to watch and to kind of...
Well, yeah, no, I think the interesting thing would be the New York Times writing a Tankie article. Because you're right, that will happen.
That will happen.
Some point.
We've just spoken it into being.
With the ascendancy of Bernie Sanders, they will find the most radical supporters. I mean, it might not be a Project Veritas or something along those lines, but it will be someone saying gulags were good.
Well, I mean, Veritas literally already did that video.
Yeah, they did that, but New York Times is going to get a hold of a person who goes on the record as a tankie, and we're here to track that story as it happens.
As it happens. All right, so
we got to talk about Tom.
Oh God. Does Tom Meyer need more podcast publicity?
He does not.
He does not. If you don't know, wouldn't it be great if we just got a bunch of like Cumtown fans who found us and they were like, we just need more Tom Meyer content.
Need more Tom Meyer.
I saw Tom Meyer.
Material.
He was at the stand last Sunday in a roast battle.
Didn't you inform him of something?
I did. I didn't know. I assumed Tom Meyer was searching his own name on Twitter and things like that. I assume he just searches. He's got a tweet deck, and one column just has bong hit transplant. He
did just tweet that he's going to be voting Bernie.
He did endorse Bernie today. That is true.
That is something.
So
to put
I have
in the
nothing
podcast. He's
bad
helping
to
Maryland.
say about Tom Meyer's political views, but a lot of people were joking, Cometown fans mostly, that Tom Myers was possibly the comedy writer that Bloomberg was rumored to have hired. So I saw him in person last Sunday, and I said, "Ha ha! So I guess you're not the Bloomberg comedy writer." Thinking 100% he was fully aware of this being joked about online. He had no idea. And then I had to be like, yeah, well, some Cometown fans joking that it's you, Tom. Because
the comedy was shitty. That was why they...
Please go look up the material done on Tom
Myers is one of a kind. That's all I'll say about it.
Baltimore legend.
That is all I will say about it. But he didn't know, and then he was like, "Oh, you think I'd be at this gig if I got that one?" But yeah, so I did break that news to Tom. I can't believe he's not searching himself like that.
R.I.P. to a real one, Bloomberg.
Yeah, Bloomberg. Mini Mike.
Burial.
Did we all see Bam Margera today?
We did see Bam Margera apologize to Amanda Murcott that she had to
Pretend to like jackass.
I do want to mention a little bit of frivolity before we get out of here. I've got an Orb Gang update. I know I mentioned before, should Liz Warren come over to Bernie's side, we have already planned and prepped a new emoji for her. So let's hope we get to use it. But on February 22nd, 2020, the Orb Gang put Chris Matthews in an astral prison meme. And
What?
yeah,
what does that mean?
We made a meme where we put him in an astral prison, meaning an energetic prison, where we declared he was. I say we like I was. I didn't just retweet
You were personally
this.
responsible.
That I was
for this?
personally. I just co-signed it. I am in contact.
Here personally put Chris
Matthews in an astral prison, and look at that! Wouldn't you know? Not even 3 weeks later, he's out of here.
Is that a euphemism for Central Park?
It's the Central Park
of the astral plane
of the fifth dimension. So the astral plane would be the energetic field we can all go to in our dreams and mix it up. It's also a tool to put bad people in an energetic cage, and we did it with Chris Matthews. I just want to say the witchcraft is working. So if you are a meme magician out there, keep doing it. Meme magic, it's how Trump won. It's how we're going to win. I think we've got the meme magic this time for sure. So I am not worried. That was just my Orb Gang update. We've put the centrists coalescing around Biden in their own golden eggs where they cannot harm us. So hopefully that'll take into effect. That'll go into effect soon. And finally, I just want to say where we're at in terms of celebs. We got Kirsten Dunst for Bernie.
Yep.
So that's a little more impressive than even the Tom Myers endorsement. Whoa. But sadly, Cher said she's with Biden, she's with Joe. But then later she said it was a joke, and Cher's very hard to decipher on Twitter. Highly recommend you glance at her Twitter. I hope it was a joke that she's with Joe Biden. Michael Ian Black, we knew you were going to go for Biden, dude. You suck.
Him and Meghan McCain should just get their own astral plane.
Are they to make another movie together?
Yeah, just go on the road together to show how different they are when they endorse the same fucking person.
Yeah. Fuck them guys. Anyway.
Stop being such a Steven.
Oh, God. Sorry, Steven just rightly reminded me of that episode of Tom Goes to the Mayor with Michael Ian Black, which was, in fact, awesome.
I'm in comedy. A lot of us have,
Bad opinion.
yeah, we're terrible people. Some's fucked in our brain. Some of us are worse than others. That's all I want to say. And you know that it's coming up gangbusters. All the people I like the best are for Bernie. It's just happening that way. It's really lovely. Anyway, guys, you got any last thoughts?
I had a great experience today tweeting at Brian Lair.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
I tweeted at Brian Lair with my podcast handle, which you can follow, Pinko Steve. They were doing a segment on coronavirus, and a caller called up and said how great China had been doing. And I tweeted sarcastically that listening to Brian Lair talk about how much communism is better equipped at handling the coronavirus. And then he said it. He said it out loud on the air.
He's a communist now. You did it, Steve.
Brian Lair is a communist. But yes, I got him to read my sarcastic pro-communism tweet
Hell yeah.
on air. And got him to laugh and like, and now you can laugh and like that tweet and others on our social media.
We've got social media,
Pinko,
guys.
Commie, Slutz on social media. We're rolling it out like a bunch of
Very online people.
Yeah, online
I'm Bunny Themless. I'm at Bunny Themless on Twitter. We've also got at Pinko Commie Slutz on Twitter and Instagram. I don't know what photos we're gonna put up, but we'll put something there. I just wanted to grab these handles.
Twitter,
Instagram,
Facebook group.
Oh yeah, we have a shit posting group.
We have a Pinko
That's probably going to be the
Commies-
most active.
Pinko Commie Slutz shit posting. Marlowe, do you want to plug your?
I have nothing to plug.
I feel like I want to have Marlowe be Pinko Commie Slutz with journalist Steve Klett, comedian Bunny Themless, and mysterious Marlowe the Marxist. Like, just cloak you completely in mystery. Maybe have some sort of avatar. Then we could, some kind of avatar we could digitally mask you with should we ever get into video content.
Video,
Yeah.
Blurred face, blurred Marlowe.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But my face, you can look at it. And guys, I'm still playing Washington, D.C., March 12th at the Wonderland Ballroom. If you listen to this, look it up. Anyway, guys, I want us to have a different outro song eventually, but I think our theme song right now, it's fucking gangbusters. Thank you, guys. This has been Pinko Commie Slutz.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Pinko, Commie, Slutz. Pinko, Commie, Slutz. Pinko, Commie, Slutz. Pinko, Commie,